my name is Alan Nolan. I'm an illustrator and I'm a writer, and I write and I draw books for kids. Books like the Sam Hannigan series for the O'Brien Press, Conor's Caveman and Finton's 15. And today I'm going to do a little reading from Conor's Caveman, which is one of my favourite books. It's all about a girl and a boy called Conor and Charlie who are in scouts, Cub Scouts, and they go for a walk up the Wicklow Mountains. They get lost in the mist and fog up the top of one of the mountains. They're coming down, they fall into a cave, and inside the cave they find a caveman frozen in ice. And what they do is they defrost the caveman, they break him out of the ice, he's still alive, and they bring him into school to sort out all the bullies. So I'm going to read a little bit from this book, and it's the part when Conor gets the caveman home, and he has to keep it a secret from his mum as well. So the caveman has just come home, his name is Og. So it's called Og's Duvet Day. Conor woke up the next morning to the sound of his alarm clock. When he sleepily opened his eyes, the first thing they focused on was an A4 refill pad page taped to the chair beside his bed. It read, "Not a dream." His eyes sprung open. Og! He jumped out of bed and hastily pulled his trousers on over his pyjama bottoms. He ran down the stairs two at a time, not worrying about the racket he was making, as he knew his mum had already gone to work in the old people's home. She was always up and about a couple of hours before Conor, leaving him to fend for himself with breakfast and getting to school. He opened the front door and looked around the side of the house. There was Og, sitting outside the kennel, scratching his matted hairy head. He looked like he had just woken up too. Conor was glad that the thick creeper bush kept Og hidden from the view of anyone walking up Clobbersound Crescent. Og looked up. "Conor," he said, and smiled a huge big toothy smile. So it wasn't a fluke, thought Conor. He can speak. Well, kind of. Og got to his feet, which were huge and just as hairy as his arms. Conor took him by the hand and led him into the house, after first checking that no passer-by or nosy neighbour were knocking. Og was a bit reluctant to go through the door, but Conor tugged him through. He supposed Og probably found the dark, drafty kennel to be more cave-like than this nice, warm house. "Right, Og," said Conor, "I have to go to school soon. You'll have to stay here until I figure out what to do with you." He led the caveman into the kitchen. Og was so tall he was practically hitting his head off the top of the door frames. "Are you hungry?" Conor asked. Og looked down at him impassively. Conor pointed to his mouth and added, "You know, hungry. Are you starving, Marvin? Fancy a bit of brekkie?" "Brekkie," said Og. "That's the spirit," cried Conor, amazed at how quickly Og was catching on to the language. Conor himself was almost 3 years old before he spoke his first word, and, being the quiet boy that he is, he hadn't spoken that many since. Conor looked through the kitchen presses. "Okay, we have cornflakes, shredded wheat, Wheatie Wheels." He handed Og the packet of Wheatie Wheels. Og sniffed it. He shook it. He stuck out his big tongue and licked it. "No," said Conor, remembering how Og had eaten the chocolate bars, wrappers included. "You have to open the packet first." Og looked at Conor quizzically. Then understanding seemed to dawn. He ripped the cardboard packet open, and Wheatie Wheels went flying all over the kitchen in a massive explosion of sugary toasted wheat. Conor sighed. "Never mind, Mum won't be back until midnight, so I'll clean it up later. How about we cook something?" He opened up the fridge. "We have sausages, rashers, fish fingers, a little bit of custard. Do you like eggs, Og?" He held up an egg to Og. Og's face lit up. He held one finger up and put his other hand under the fur he was wearing and rummaged around. After a moment, he took out of his furs the biggest egg Conor had ever seen. It was so enormous that it made the egg Conor was holding look like a tic-tac by comparison. It was a greenish blue colour and looked like it may have been laid by a prehistoric ostrich or emu. Og's hand, as colossal as it was, could barely hold it. Egg, Og, said Og. Conor shook his head in wonder, shrugged his shoulders, and took out the biggest frying pan he could find. Even that didn't seem big enough for Og's mega egg. So Conor got up in a chair, climbed onto the kitchen worktop, and reached up to take down the wok from on top of the press. His mum had bought it for cooking Chinese food, but she worked so much he never got time to cook in it anymore. Conor turned on the stove, heated up some oil in the wok, and with Og's help, broke the heavy egg into it. The smell from the egg was atrocious. Conor had to take a kitchen chair and sit down. He pulled the neck of a school jumper over his face and opened up the window. He looked like a bandit from a cowboy movie, but at least it kept the stench out. Og looked delighted, standing over the wok as the egg cooked and licking his lips. Conor wondered what a 6,000-year-old egg would taste like, and then decided he actually never wanted to find out. When the egg was done, Conor had to use a garden spade to lift it out of the wok. None of the ordinary kitchen implements were big enough to shift it. He put it on a plate while he gathered up the huge bits of broken jagged eggshell and put them into a bin bag. Og tucked in. He ate with no knife and no fork, using only his bulky sausage-like fingers, and he smacked his lips as he ate, wiping his nose with a hairy forearm. When he was finished, Og sat back happily in the chair and let out the loudest burp Conor had ever heard. He checked out the front window to make sure nobody else on the road had overheard Og's prodigious wind breaking, but all out on Clobberstown Crescent, unlike in Conor's kitchen, was quiet. Well, I hope you enjoyed that reading from Conor's Caveman, and if you did, you can get that book or any of my books or books by brilliant Irish authors, fantastic international authors in Blanchardstown Library, in Fingal Libraries, and libraries all over Ireland. Now, libraries are going to be back when schools are back, so we look forward to seeing you all again in the library.